Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a raid Shadow Legends video, and we've got a special guest on the channel today. We've got Saf from the HH Gaming team. Saf, how you doing?
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad. It's hot. It's early, but we're here. We're good.
We're good. So we're going to do the community reacts type of video. Now, I put out a video yesterday. I know Saf's got one lined up for later today, talking about the what's next in raid, talking about the changes that are due to come. We don't know exactly when, but over the next few months. And I gotta admit, I was pretty hypey, and I kind of want to then take that a layer back and listen to what the community is saying, and just perhaps between me and Saf, just talk through how we think that's going to play out. Some of those different comments, how do they actually play out in reality? I guess before we do that, Saf, do you just want to introduce yourself and perhaps, you know, the channel that you run?
Yeah, sure. So I've been part of HH Gaming, Hell Hades team for, oh, God, is it 18, 24 months now nearly? We're coming up. I obviously work alongside Hell Hades Fiction and the team in supporting building the website out and all the different tools and configurations we have on the website. But at the same time, I've got a YouTube channel with Fiction, HH Gaming, where we are putting out daily videos now on all sorts of things in the game. Shard summons. I tend to do a deep dive into a lot of the data. If you're really interested in how the game works, how math works in the game, the different multipliers, we have videos on pretty much everything. We just did a really cool video on the new bolster set, understanding how shields work in general. So if you really love that kind of getting into the game mechanics in deep, then we've got loads of videos for you there. And a little sneak peek, I am starting a new sort of not free to play but low spender account in the next few days. So there'll be a bit of a series on like the geek trying to progress through and catch up with everyone else. So we'll see how that goes.
That sounds good. Sounds good. So look, I think we're just going to dive straight in here. What I've done is I've cut some of, I'd say some of either the repeating comments or comments that just felt pretty damn relevant. Yeah, so some of them are positive, some of them are not, but it just felt like it would be useful to just give our view on it, Saf, and kind of give a bit of a feel for
sure.
Do we agree, or actually do we feel like they're perhaps pushing it a bit too far to the negative?
I think so, as well, we should just say at the start, it's really good that we're getting a what's next, because it's been a very difficult year for everyone at Plarium. We've sort of like the last patch for me in particular felt like, oh, have we run out of content? So it's really, really good and positive that, you know, we're getting content for the rest of the year. And I think that's the, like, you know, obviously we might have some comments about the content not being good or that we're getting content. And I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, and one thing that's worth saying as well, like we cry out for content. Yeah, I see it, and not just us, everywhere. It's like, where's the new content in the patch? We're only seeing champions. Where's the new content? And it actually knocks me a bit when we get a content drop, and then the immediate reaction is, that's not what we want, or that's not good enough. And, you know, without really getting any context. So I do try and stay, personally, it's like a personal thing. I try and be positive until I'm pushed to the negative. That's pretty much my stance on life. So
exactly. Wait for the details and the context before we sort of maybe put this in the bin category, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's kick off with the first one then. So, surprised no one else has made the comment about the visuals and terminology being extremely Diablo-like. I see this Diablo word coming up a lot. Not on my comments generally, but just kind of like as a reference to bad. Yeah, everyone's kind of view is Diablo horrendous, and, you know, we can't stand anything to do with it. We hate it. So, you know, the kind of link, the tenuous link here to Diablo, the red, evil, demonic visual theme, immortal soul stones, can't they be anymore? I can't be any more on the nose. So I'm not in the massive hate category of Diablo, but then I never played any of the previous ones. Okay, so I played a bit of this one.
Diablo's Diablo Immortal specifically.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah. But what's your view? Do you feel like this is a fair comparison?
Yes and no. I mean, like the biggest thing for anyone who hasn't played Diablo Immortal that people complained about was the entirety of the high-end progression. Like they had a system called Resonance. Resonance increased your combat ability. That was locked exclusively behind your ability to buy things. There wasn't a way to earn the currency. So that's why it got so much hate, because it was effectively, you cannot do this unless you buy money. Whereas in a lot of pay-to-win gacha games, you can definitely get there eventually. It's just you're paying almost to speed up the progress.
You're speeding your progress up,
exactly.
For sure.
Which is why I think Diablo got so much hate. And I think what they've done can see where they're coming from. So in Diablo, you had like this soulstone kind of meant thing where you basically gave it a crest and then you got a gem, and then you would upgrade the gems by basically trying to find the right combination of gem star ratings to then empower that gem up
Yeah,
to a
yeah,
certain
yeah.
rank. So I can see the similarities. What I would say though, with the blessing systems and the awakening systems, it's not a re-roll the same thing into the re-roll. If you get the perfect soul stone or the perfect soul, then obviously you can go from 0 to 100 in one item.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, there's at the moment, there's no indication of any sort of pay to win model here, but I would
No,
imagine we're going to
the
buy the
context
currency.
is people think there's going to be a pay to win version, and
Yeah.
I agree. You know, it's like it looks like they mirrored the summoning kind of portal, haven't they, with this? So it kind of feels
Yeah.
like there will be a pay to win element. However, I thought there would be a pay to win element on Faction Wars, as in selling more Faction War keys, and that's never come.
And they've
I
never
thought,
really sold glyphs. They did it once or twice and it got so much negativity, they've never done it again.
yeah, and they never have done it with Doom Tower either, as far as I'm aware. Like,
You can't buy
selling
keys.
more keys to get more gear. So I mean, I'm guessing this will have a pay to win element to it, but we don't know yet.
So I can imagine it'll either be like a gem cost for getting more keys in the Twin Towers, you know, the twin
potentially
iron towers, or they might just sell packs of because
the actual soul stones.
I don't know if we're going to cover it, but the currencies in the system is hella complicated. So
yeah, there was definitely a comment
connection.
about that. Let's jump on to the next one because we might end up covering a load of people's things here in one. So this one here, from what was shown, these are going to dance all over the place, by the way. From what was shown, the Deck of Fate is a huge downgrade from the Path of Lights. With Path of Lights, you could at least see your progression towards something. So this is that kind of Deck of Fate where it was the new event system.
It's a drinking game, right? That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
back next stream.
When I first saw him flipping, I thought, are they playing pairs? Like, you know, like the kids card game. I don't know. What's your view generally on this kind of Deck of Fate from what we've seen?
Obviously, it's an evolution of the Path of Light, right? We got the light coins there, so we've obviously decided now the model of events isn't to make new events, but to basically make the same event built on those two events, but give you a different currency, so it makes it feel like you're doing a different event. In terms of like the Deck of Fates, again, it always comes down to me in terms of like, to get the light coins is an energy cost. So if I'm investing my energy, then I want to have a reasonable payoff in terms of the rewards, because otherwise I could just not invest my energy there and I can go do masteries, or I could go do potion 100%. Keeps, I can go farm more gear, I can do other stuff. And looking at what we saw in the video, I'm hoping it's just placeholder, but the sort of there was a grid view of the rewards in that event, and then they had like 1,500 coins per flip. I mean, if I flip a 1,500 coin and all I get is like 10 energy, I'll be honest, it's not worth my time.
Yeah, this is it, and that it all comes down to, doesn't it? Is it additional to what we are already going to get, and are the rewards worth your time? Like, but the sad thing for me is it looks like it's just a rehash of what we've got.
Yeah, the 3 thing is a bit. It feels like it's going to be good if you get the RNG and you get the 3 cards. If you get 3 legendaries or 3 epics and then you get that bonus chest, that's where all the good stuff is going to be.
Yeah.
But it's not like like you look at how many different tiles you've got there. The odds are actually quite poor because you're diluting. Oh, yeah. If you think about it, like with anything, you're diluting the number of possible matches because there's more variants that you could pick a different one because there's more cards. So I'm not going to judge it and say it's terrible, but right now, in my opinion, it's not really an improvement. You know, they improved the hero's path on the second one they did because they made the flexibility better and they give a better return for the rewards because of the champ training conversion. But the first Path of Light was awful, in my opinion. So I don't know.
I guess it's a bit of a watch and see, isn't it? We need to see how it actually comes out.
It's a drinking game on stream. Instead of pulling champions and having a shot, if you get a legendary, there's a shot for everyone and see how drunk we get. That's what we're going to do, right?
Let's do it. This one I threw in there because it's so true. Damn, you will get some website job to add all the divinity to everyone, or you've got an extra website job. So basically on the website, we try and give as much direction as possible when it comes down to masteries, when it comes down to booking, all that type of stuff. And what Nicholas is saying here is, damn, you're going to have to try and add the best kind of awakenings to each champion. I mean, the coolest thing about Raid for me is there's so many options. Like, there's so many options with gear sets. There's so many options with masteries. Depends what you're going to do with that champion. And I think it's probably going to be a bit similar to Awakening. Where are you going to use them, therefore dictates what you're going to do. What are you thinking, Saf?
Well, we're going to have to rewrite the guides for the champion pages, right? I mean, that's going to be our first job. As you say, the biggest perk for Raid Shadow Legends is no one way of doing something is the exclusive way. I've played other games before, like Ace, and you literally end up in a situation where unless you have X, Y, Z, it's not good. Now, to some extent, in Raid, you will have that when you get to the top end and you find some of these like double Calvalax teams. But you can achieve the outcomes in various different ways, with various different builds. It's what makes it quite hard for us on the download, because trying to make a guide that can cover all the different strategies is actually quite difficult.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that I've noticed is some of these blessings that we've got are arena-only blessings. So not only have we got the context of which blessings are good, we've also got the context of which ones are good for arena versus non-arena. And so
100%.
we're gonna have a bit of a job there when it gets going. We're gonna have to see what we're gonna have to do with the guides. But we have got other things in the pipelines that actually I'm glad they've announced this now, because it would affect that as well. So it's a good situation to be in.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's move on. So this is what you were talking about earlier. All right, a dozen new currencies, a handful of new craft materials, and generally a lot of souls-related stuff. I had to laugh at some point because the narrator said souls so many times in a row. Not complicated at all, etc. So, I mean, yeah, it's something you were talking about, Saf, in terms of just new currencies. And for me, like, you have to look at it through two lenses, right? It's almost like I've played this game for 3 years and I know Raid inside out. And therefore, you add another layer on top for me, and it's just me trying to understand the new layer. Whereas if you've got someone who started playing the game a month ago, and they're trying to get their head around 43 different artifact sets, all of these different champions, the masteries they've got to build, where should they focus their time? And then you get another load of currencies on top of, honestly, we've already got a ton of currencies in the game. It's complex, right? And does that put people off of playing?
I think that's a big concern for me right now. Actually, there's 51 artifact sets now that we've got bolster.
Is there?
Yeah, there is. There's 51
How did
now.
I miss 8 when I was counting them the other day?
But that's the thing, that like, it's not even about the actual spending currency. It's about the cost currency. So if you think I've got clan boss keys, Hydra keys, Doom Tower silver keys, Doom Tower gold keys, I'm now going to have tower keys. I'm going to have keys for my faction wars. It's like I've got so many different keys for so many different systems. That's before I then get to the rewards that I get. We've got Bazaar gold bars. We've got clan gold.
All
we've
the forged materials.
Silver, forged materials, forged charms, glyphs. For a new player coming into the game, considering how terrible their guides tend to be in terms of explaining how things work, in terms of the in-game help articles.
Yeah.
It's a lot of currencies and a lot of systems that players are having to learn and having to understand. And it gets quite complicated. And to be honest, even for an endgame player, for me, when I was watching the video, I was sitting there, I was thinking, right, well, I'm going to get it looks like a silver coin and a gold coin from the new tower. And then there seems to be some sort of summoning soulstone.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there's another currency as well that is related to the summoning ones. And then you can burn
and then
it.
you could like burn somebody, and it's like, am I losing my champion or am I just losing the soul? And
and we've got two different types of souls, perfect and split. And I'll be honest, I was sitting there, I was thinking, I don't mind that they introduce new systems with new currencies. I think at the same time, someone in the balance team should be going, can we merge some of the old systems?
Yeah, definitely.
Can we combine some of these different currencies?
The thing is, we don't know the context of what the new world of PvP looks like. And I hope it is a proper change in terms of what they do, and not just a kind of, tweaking numbers here and there. It needs to be a change to really make it make more sense. And, and hopefully within that change, things like the Great Hall medals kind of almost have a combination to Bazaar and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's just kind of like there's too much stuff going on, and all of it is kind of like okay in its own way. But I feel like they could massively revamp Arena, and hopefully that's what their plans are. Anyway, let's keep going. So, anyone else concerned that community will find the best 3 or 4 blessings and every champion will run the same? And actually, this is Jackabat Gaming here says, we already get that with masteries to a large degree. And then someone else down below kind of almost like, he's responding again. It's like, well, pretty much this is what's happened with Stone Skin in Arena. The meta's kind of become, if you're not in Stone Skin, you're not in good gear almost. And then, maybe Bolster Set kind of starts to do the same thing again. So, I mean, I would just say to the comment initially, I definitely don't feel like we get that with masteries. If you play to a higher level of play. Masteries are actually really diverse. And that's why it's quite hard on the website to get the right masteries per champion, because I could run 5 different sets of masteries on a champion easily, depending on the role they've got, depending on the gear that I've got available to me, depending on who they're paired with. Like there's a whole load of different factors actually. So I think masteries are actually not one size fits all.
I'd say they're archetypal in the sense that,
Yeah.
you know, you'll have a rough idea of the masteries you'll pick if you want to go into like a control set versus a clan boss champion versus a damage dealer. But there'll always be like tweaks and variances in terms of, I don't want this master, I want this one because there's something, you know, for example, you might take someone like Mortar Macabre. Well, Helm Smash is not much use there. You might as well just take Flawless Execution. So there's always variances. Whilst I understand where he's coming from in the sense that you can get a feel that masteries are somewhat similar, especially more, I suppose, in clan boss, because you tend to, like, a lot of the masteries just don't work. Yeah, there's not, I don't think it's like 100%.
Yeah, for areas of the game, they might be quite similar. But yeah, anyway, I mean, let's talk about blessings then. Do you feel like, or is that a concern of yours that people will just pick, you know, maybe 2 or 3 blessings and then they'll run them everywhere?
So I'm looking at it as what I think they're actually going to make the blessings do more than what we've seen in the video. I think blessings will counter blessings. And this is why, for me, there's a big thing that I'd like to see, which is we before we go into a battle in, say, PvP, we should be able to see the blessings that we're fighting against. Because
I mean, one of Jacobat's, just reading his last line of commentary here, how can Arena possibly be fun if you can't ever make an educated plan on how to counter the opposing team?
Exactly.
And that actually is right for gear sets as well, to a certain
100%.
degree, isn't it? Yeah.
Because the thing, especially now that you've got bolster and stone skin, so if you're looking at a Mountain King, how do you know if that's a stone skin? If that's a stone skin, you might bring, because it's Mountain King is really slow, 3 buff strips and try and improve that 50% odds. If it's a bolster, well, you'd want someone like maybe a Baron or a Faceless because you can ignore the shield. But if I have a stone skin, then that Faceless is kind of useless. So we have that problem already.
Also, like with Arena, because it's not real-time Arena, we're not banning out stuff, we're not banning out champions. So if you can see everything laid out before you, all of the advantage is with you, with the attacker, always. Because you're choosing what to bring to the fight, whereas the defense is always preset.
Yeah.
So it's hard to not have, you kind of need some form of RNG or some form of, you know, just kind of like mystery. Otherwise, you will always win. If you've got the gear to do so and the knowledge,
and I think this is why you're touching on the reason why Playroom haven't done any PvP this year, because I don't think it's a plus 10% solution. It's we need to look at it holistically and figure out what players want. Because I hear a lot of people saying, I want live PvP. And I'm like, but do you actually want live PvP? Because is that going to make your experience any better? Because it means it might draw you to the game more often, when potentially you might want more relatable PvP. Like, I want to be able to duel my friends, or I might want to be able to do a clan versus clan PvP contest, or maybe I want to fight my own clan members. I think that's more important. That's another topic for another time and maybe another video. But my point I think I was trying to think of is, yes, there's probably going to be best in slot blessings, and yes, it's probably going to be legendary based. But
they're likely to be for particular types of content. Do you think?
I think there's
this will be like a few arena ones. This will be a few PvE ones.
I spotted some exclusive arena ones where it only really worked in some arena.
Okay.
It literally said in the description, this will only work in arena. We also have this high awakening bonus. I'm not entirely sure what that means until we know all of the blessings, but it's very difficult. But what I think is going to happen is we've got 4 categories of blessings. I think the categories are going to balance each other out. So it could be for in a defensive position, I've got a defensive blessing that is a counter to one of the offensive blessings that best in slot people use.
Yeah.
That's how I think it'll work. We don't know. It's very difficult from the video because we only saw a snippet of a few blessings and we didn't really see like in detail how the blessing system would work. Like, we don't even know, for example, can we swap blessings, or is it a one-time lock? Are you fixed into that blessing forever?
That's a really good point, actually, because that could be pretty brutal, especially if they launch more. It looked like there was an option for them to add more in over time, didn't it?
Yeah. And there's no reason why they couldn't add more into the 4 categories they've already got as well and make it like 3 per affinity.
I'd be surprised if they didn't do it like they do with masteries, like reset for 150 gems type of thing.
I think you'll be able to unslot them for a cost. Maybe they'll use the new currencies, or maybe they'll create a new one. You never know.
Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Robert Armstrong, they blew me away with this. Absolutely insane.
100% agree. 100% agree.
I agree. I feel like it's really cool, interesting stuff that's coming through.
I think it's the biggest.
Depends how they implement it, but
I think in terms of features, it's the biggest What's Next video they've ever done, beyond the Doomtown, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you think that the last few What's Next.
I think so. I think so.
They didn't really add many more systems. It was just like lots of like little tweaks.
Bearing in mind, it's building us up for the PvP changes they want to make. This isn't even the PvP stuff. This is just the kind of like prerequisite of we want these in place to make PvP of 2023 hopefully more interesting.
Yeah, and for the context of anyone who hasn't watched the Cirilla interview, they delayed the year of PvP because otherwise I can just see it now in the comments. Everyone going, well, they said this year was the year of PvP. It's like, let's put it into context and be real. I guess they thought it's probably not a good idea to go messing with the PvP scene that much when you haven't even got an office, right?
You're not geared up to do it. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So this one here, this is just a kind of, we probably touched on a lot of these points, but I think it's a relevant comment. So many questions, and that often comes from a what's next video. By the way, you know they're trying
teaser.
It's a teaser video, and obviously we don't know all the detail. How prevalent are the coins? What's the exchange rate from coins to souls? How prevalent are the new shard thingies? What's their drop rate? If you choose a spirit on a champ, is it locked? Are we now going to also have ×2 events for these shards? Will these shards be for sale? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so there are a lot of questions, and we don't know the answers yet.
Yeah.
But I think that also creates a bit of a buzz around the community of we kind of want the next layer of info. And I think that's what a teaser video does, right? It's
I'm sure we won't get it until like the day before it comes out. But
we'll probably get it on the test server. By the way, I have access to a test server. I feel like they should change it to the marketing server. Like a test server for me should be, you get into a test server, you give feedback and say, this doesn't quite work right, this works really well. And then tweaks are made if they need to be made, if they agree with the feedback, and then they launch a concept.
Yeah.
Now we don't get it. We get always, this is the final version. Go and show some videos of the final new stuff.
Unless it's like absolutely broken or...
And then we're like, well, yeah, but that's, I think, there's only been one change that I can remember from the test server.
So we had the multipliers for Constantine changed, right? Because they were void legendaries and it was a void fusion. Everyone was complaining they didn't hit hard enough. That was just like, but they just tweaked the numbers, right? They didn't really
numbers, yeah. The main one that I remember is discard.
Yeah, that was the one. He was so broken they had to nerf him. But generally, again, we're not nerfing any sort of kit or changing anything. We're just increasing.
It's just numbers.
Tweaking, right? So
but concepts. I mean, if we get access to a concept on the test server, we're not testing anything other than, is it worthy of a video? Basically, that's basically what we test.
Most games, when they do like a beta release, like Diablo 3's about to start a new season, they release a PTR, like a playtest round. And players will go in, they'll test all the different functions. They've got like a feedback loop back to the developers and say things like, oh, this set doesn't really work, or this is just way too strong. We're getting server performance with this. And they come back and then they'll tweak it. And they actually extended their playtest a week this time because there was a few issues. So that's a proper test server. You've got players giving a beta form of a test run before you release it to your live servers. Whereas you say with the test server, it's literally like, hey guys, there's a new champion, go make a video.
Yeah. So anyway, and I digress, but a lot of these things look like they're kind of pretty far along in terms of the kind of code.
Just on that last question, I just wanted to raise a point, and it's something I reacted to. The 2-time summoning, the wish listing, the reforging of souls, that's amazing for the system that they're proposing, but really, why can't we have that for normal champions?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Great point.
Like we basically said before the dupe system come out, why can't we just burn some duplicate legendaries into like shard fragments and then just like resummon again, please?
Yeah, or you know what? There's a system already in the game that could help you with that. The token trader. Why don't they change the champion?
I know, right? I mean, the life
token. Why
have they forgotten about that market?
Like, literally, like, why don't they just monthly change those champions? I don't get it. Anyway, let's move on. So, saw this video drop. I think this adds yet more depth to your champions and the game overall. It also gives more bonuses to those who've spent massive amounts of cash. I'm not sure if that's really that true, honestly.
No, it just gives you a reason to spend more money if there is a pay to win.
Yeah, perhaps gives you a reason to keep going. But it says here, on a side note, so glad that common and uncommon champions are out of the mix of Awakening, so that Armaga is now obsolete once you hit mid-game. Armaga can suck a ding-dong.
Wow. What did Armaga do to this guy? Jeez,
Easy Deuce is hating on Armaga right now. But I guess it kind of comes back to the point of the Awakening has got different levels,
Yeah.
rare, epic, and legendary. And we were talking a bit
The
beforehand.
blessings, right, isn't it? Yeah, the blessings.
Is it the
That's gonna
blessing? Sorry, yeah.
it's gonna confuse us. The awakening is obviously the star rating thing. The blessings are the perk, effectively.
Yeah, but the two are interlocked, right? Once you get to
You need the awakening to get the blessing slot.
yeah,
right?
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So ultimately, let's assume that the legendary blessings are going to be stronger than the rare ones, or
fair
perhaps more
assumption, right?
prevalent. Yeah, so we're just kind of hoping that it doesn't make rares obsolete, when you get a bit further down the line, or even epics to a certain
I think
degree.
it's the epic that's more concerning because, like, obviously, as you play the game, you transition. There's some rares you keep, like ARS for Clan Boss, maybe Diabolist because you've got a really good base speed and Cold Hearts. But generally, you transition as you get further in the game to using epics, and then you start using the legendaries as you get more of those. That's just the natural progression of the game.
Yeah, yeah.
What we don't want, though, is the epics to be so far apart from the legendaries, because there are still, I think, majority of players will probably use 50% of their team as epics.
Yeah,
So,
at least I'd say
yes.
And the epics really can, maybe with the exception of Hydra, unless you've got very good gear and really the best epics.
You
I
say
think
that.
epics can win the game. can't they?
Ogo, Shamael.
Yeah, I mean there are really good ones that
Fenax.
fit in a team, but could they be the team?
I mean, the power in terms of can they do Hydra brutal? I think you can make an all epic team, but can you do it easily? It's hard to overcome now. Like Necmo has just come out and he's an absolute monster. Two Hanoraks, Siphi, Duchess, like they do so much to make the whole thing easier.
You just need so many mechanics, don't you? That's the thing, and legendaries tend to bring an extra one or two
bring
mechanics
it all in one, right? And rather than having it across 3 different champions. But yeah, it's just obviously that concept of like you can't empower an epic. You can't get the legendary awakenings on the epic, the blessings on the epics. So are you just like widening the gap between the people who have all the legendaries and the people who can't get the legendaries because of RNG luck? I'm not even saying people who don't spend money on the game. Like I spend a bit of money on the game. I'm nowhere near the top of the arena who've got like +4s. So
I spend a lot of money on the game and I'm nowhere near the top.
Like your Cupidus is a monster, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, everyone's like, you can still push arena. I was like, yeah, but trying to push arena when you don't have Necret, Warlord, and all these other OP champions is really difficult. You can do it, like Hydra with epics, you can do it, but you put a 2 Hanorrak in there, and the world is so much easier for you.
What's your view on Armager dropping out of the meta then?
Now, Armager's a monster for Dragon. Absolute monster.
Armager's going nowhere.
Yeah,
Armager's going nowhere.
Like, you got to put into context, he's still, apart from a few champions that have a really strong turn meter reduction on the A2, some like Vlad or Gomlock, he's still probably the most accessible, best turn meter champion in the game.
And he comes
amazing,
ready built with a smack as well. Like, come on, Armager's going nowhere.
Put him in a blood shield, put him in reflex, and he just has a lot of fun.
Let's move on. The new card game event is different because the best rewards are available to all. Good for free-to-play accounts that struggle to get to the end of events pages for the juicy stuff.
I hard disagree.
I doubt that's going to be right.
Because at least if you grind it on the free-to-play, you know you're going to get it.
RNG generally is... And look, let's be fair. This game is owned by a gambling company.
Making slot machine company.
Yeah. Basically, they understand their marketplace, right? They understand the human psychology, human nature. And as soon as you throw in a game of chance, it's more interesting. Like Shard Pool videos are some of my most popular videos, and they're probably the worst content that I do in terms of like understanding the game. But people want to at least kind of feel that sense of, is he getting lucky? Is there luck behind this?
Rush. You pull the shard, and it's like I see the screenshots we get on Discord sometimes where it's like, look, guys, I got 3 legendary void champions in a 10 pull, and I'm like, the odds of this
I've never
are
seen
1
it.
in a billion kind of scenario. It's almost like the executives from Aristocrat came over to Plarium just to make sure everything's okay, and they found that one of them was like, oh, Raid, actually, it's a really good game now you tell me about it. I knew it was making us money, and they were like, it's really good if we can have a card game in this. Let's put a card game in it, and then
I could see down the line, like almost like a old school RPG game where you go into a tavern and there's all of these different actual casino type games. Like you play blackjack, you play put 10 gems in, you got a chance to win 100 gems type of thing.
Absolutely, I don't mind the concept if it wasn't based on the existing events. If you
Yeah.
basically had a system where you could basically have 5 free checks, 5 free picks, 10, depending on how many cards. Like maybe it's like you get 30, it's like 15 cards you can click on for free, and then you can choose with gems to buy another 15,
Yeah, yeah. Just a whole
and then
new
you get
kind of
rewards.
concept event outside of what we usually do.
Exactly. The problem
Yeah.
what I have with this, what looks like, is like you're going to have to do an artifact enhancement to get less than an artifact enhancement,
Yeah.
and there's no
It's like the
guarantee you're going
Tolarian
to get
trials
anything.
all over again. Do this
Exactly.
before you're allowed to do this.
Exactly. If it was literally just like, get 15 free rolls, that's free stuff, and then you get a chance to get more, and and like an escalating cost, a bit like the refills you get for 3v3 arena, right? It starts cheap and then it increases more and more. That's
Yeah.
a better model, because at least then you create a way to make money from the event by having like a gem cost,
Yeah.
but players can choose to do it
Do it or
but
not.
not feel like they're wasting their, they don't want to burn all that coin. So I hard disagree that it's better for free to play. I think it's worse, because you there's no guarantee you're getting what you spend your energy on.
Yeah. I will just kind of like drop in here. This game is better for free to play than it's ever been
100%.
to progress through the game and to be able to complete the game.
You get so much.
The only thing where it's not better, in my opinion, is when they added empowerment, it meant that really flat level arena was just extremely difficult to ever be able to compete in for a free to play.
Top 50, if you're not with the +4s, you just don't bother, basically.
Yeah. Okay, let's do a few more. I feel like we're running a bit long. So this game was already chocked full of complicated nuances with twisting armor potential, character builds, shards, books, teammates, etc. Now it seems impossibly complicated, really geared towards end gamers who've gone through all the pains. It's a bit like we've spoken about already, actually. It's really daunting. I'm not sure I want to continue playing. This is Leon Leonard. I'm sure there will be significant and exorbitant costs. So just kind of like the not knowing what's coming is part of it, but also, this probably feels like someone who's maybe a newer player who's just struggling with everything that's already happening, let alone the new stuff.
I think it's a valid point here. Like, they give you things as you progress in the game too soon. So like and there's some things in the game they don't give you till too late. So for example, like the artifact instant upgrade is like locked behind level 40.
Yeah, how weird is that?
Why? But then I get Hydra at level 40 when I'm probably not even looking at it until I'm getting to like level 80 or something like this. Very like they have no concept of like progression, and then players think because they're unlocked a new area they need to spend time in there, but there's nothing in the game to tell them, look, don't focus on.
Yeah, they almost need a bit of a rethink of times where stuff drops in the game for people. They need features to continue to unlock because they want players to
feel like
enjoy. Yeah, it's almost like they're getting new content as they work through the game. But one of the biggest things for me is actually I feel like the events, challenges, missions, they need a bit of a rework now that the game is so different. And I know they tried to do that a bit, but it's still, there's so many stupid ones. It almost needs a complete rehash for players coming in.
It doesn't follow a linear path, does it? So you always end up going back on yourself on the missions, when really the mission should be giving you like that natural path of progression. Yeah. And there's also no kind of like, hey, don't spend your 4 and 5 star glyphs right now because you're going to need that for a mission when you get to it.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
And then people
like
are going
a
to
warning.
get there. Yeah.
Are you sure? Does it come up anyway? Are you sure you want to use this legendary book on this epic champion or this rare? I don't know if there is a warning at first off. Honestly,
I'll be honest,
but
just remove that thing altogether.
It's don't even allow a rare to have a legendary book.
Yeah, why are you allowing players? It just feels like there are some things in the game that people actually like to call scummy or whatever. It feels like that's one of the things that's just like
a bit shady. Yeah,
it's a bit shady, guys. Like, just stop it altogether. Yeah, I do think the new player experience needs some love.
If someone was to use a legendary book on a rare, it was worth like 3 books or 5 books. Yeah,
20 bucks them or something.
Yeah,
100%. Like, you, if you're gonna make it and then just like accidentally, oh whoops, didn't know that. Like, it's one of the common mistakes people make is they use the books on the wrong thing, because there's nothing to tell you in game. You think a legendary book, it doesn't tell you legendary books are for legendary champions, and epic books can't work
or how scarce they are. This is the thing. Like, it should be
certainly until you start doing Ultra Nightmare. It's almost impossible to get really good legendary books outside of a training event.
And then once you've done Ultra Nightmare, actually you've got a reasonable flow of them coming in, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, this is the one I missed in my video, and since then I've been told 74,000 times this is what you missed. And this is one of a bazillion comments on my video saying the biggest change and the one I'm most excited for is about 3 times speed. And actually someone said to me, I heard you've got 3 times speed on the test server, and that's not true. We do not. And apparently talking to Chosen seems to think they've had 3 times speed shown before in the actual test development area for a long time. I didn't know that. I've not heard that before.
I mean, they may have a mode in test development to just like power through stuff. I can't recall the last time this many people were talking about 3 times speed, and people are keen-eyed hawked, right? They
pick up on stuff. Yeah. So look,
if it was there, we would have seen it before, I think.
I'm surprised if it's real and coming that it wasn't a bigger mention, or maybe they don't see it as a mention. Like maybe that's not a big deal to them.
It's like when you're doing a video, you sit there and you think, I'm already at 15 minutes here. Do I really want to fit something like this in? I don't think this What's Next was anything about quality of life. I think this is going to be one of those footnotes that we get in a patch that kind of goes, we're also bringing this, because let's face it, some of the forge changes, we didn't know that was coming. Yeah. And that was actually quite big, in my opinion, the 10 times forging. We obviously knew the tavern changes are coming, but that was because it was a bigger issue. The tavern performs more functions. So I think this What's Next was very much a features focus, and they probably have a limit to how long they want that video to run for, and this didn't quite make
this is more of a quality of life change if it is coming. We don't know for sure that it is. I've got to say though, I did a clan boss video. Yeah, it was like top based on this team that I was running. These people hit hardest in clan boss, and it is a little bit kind of like, obviously they don't always fit in the right team,
right?
And people were like, I don't feel like you put enough effort into this video. I tell you now, I had to sit there and watch 10, no more than that, it was 14, I think, clan boss runs, and they were like half an hour each.
100%. And I actually did I did a Ragash video on this, and it took me about an hour because I kept having to adjust the attack value so that the right veil target and the right, like, you can't just chop and change. Like my team that I have, I can literally put anyone in the 5th slot, but I still have problems because if that champion does something it's not meant to do, you got to tweak it. And it takes time. I've actually stopped doing clan boss videos and showing the full run now because it just it takes so long. Like my team takes like 20 minutes. So
I mean, if this is real, it is actually a massive change. And
yes,
because they're adding more content in, this is always the balance for me. You're putting more content in, you need to allow us a quicker way of doing some of the older content. You've just got to do it. And they have, in fairness, done a bit of that. The quality of life changes around speed has been pretty good, I'd say.
You feel like you can close the game before the end of the day now, right?
I feel like I can get my stuff done, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can do something else if I want. Or
the only thing that does worry me is speed. Like they've got it all as like time feature stuff. I know it's been on for like 24 weeks, but just make super raids a permanent thing. Why does it need to be like this featured
it doesn't
thing?
Need to be a feature. It should just be a thing.
And like 1 time speed, to be honest, should be 2 times speed. Like when you go back to 1 time speed, it's like it's actually handy for like if you're testing something, like when the stuff I do. I
was going to say the only time I use it is if it's like I actually need to count my hits on clan bosses. As this actually speed tuned properly, and that type of stuff.
But otherwise, 1 time speed is like slow motion. Yeah. No.
Okay, let's just try and find. I just want to find a couple of the ones that felt a bit different. Convoluted system here. New boss looks amazing. I'm all up for the new stuff. I think the blessings look cool. So this is something just pretty positive.
One comment about the new boss. If it's only a boss, that can be speed tuned. Speed tuning. Yay. That excites me. I'm a speed tune. I love speed tuning. If it's just a boss.
Also allows you to bring different types of teams, doesn't it? Because actually, if you've got to beat waves before a boss, then your team has to look very different.
It's very difficult to speed tune when you've got waves and Hydra. We couldn't speed tune because of the amount of turn meter mechanics that happen and buffs cleaning and all that kind of stuff. This guy sounds like he's a little bit more straightforward. We obviously don't know what the debuffs do, but speed tuning. I get excited when I hear the word.
And I do like that they've added in, an affinity type of angle to it. But it's not a necessity. It's just like an angle. So
I don't know how powerful it's going to be. I looked at the skill quickly on my React video, and it said something like the boss gets 1% more defense for every champion that isn't the same affinity. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking 5% defense doesn't sound like a lot.
Per stack, though, I think it was, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know if it was. I think the stacks does something else.
Oh, okay.
I think that's the actual A2 passive ability said the boss gains more defense plus 1 defense for every champion on the enemy team that is not the same affinity. So obviously you can only have a maximum of 5. So you're looking at what? Boss gaining 5% more defense. I didn't seem very strong to me, but it could just be development test in placeholder text. So obviously I'm not taking that with a exact, but
Okay, so the final one here that we're going to talk about, and this was actually the most liked comment on my video by a long way from John Luke. My big
What do they
takeaway
want
from
to
this
do?
video is that there is no longer room for them to ice skate in the winter.
Is a point. I actually made the exact same comment. I was like, why? If it does feel like the altar of summons or the altar of souls is kind of just like plonked in the middle of the ground for no apparent reason whatsoever, and the useless marketplace that gives us 5 ancient shards and a few mystery shards is kind of still there doing its thing from
Yeah.
2019 that nobody really knows.
Yeah.
It's just like, what are we gonna do with the ice skating? We're gonna have to like put some development time in.
Maybe
there
they're
now
going to skate like around the market and around the new altar of souls.
I don't know. Maybe they'll put a theme park in there. They've got a problem though. Biggest problem at Christmas time. Where's Kale gonna skate?
Yeah, this is it.
Maybe
This is
he'll
it.
skate into the altar of souls and give us like a perfect 6-soul Kaimar or something. You never know.
Yeah, it's a fair comment, John Luke. Fair comment. Look, Saf, I think we're going to wrap it up there. So we've been chatting for a while. If you have not already subbed to the HH Gaming YouTube channel, go and get yourself subbed. They're so close.
We are
So
close.
close to 10,000 subs.
The golden 5 numbers.
Come on.
And check out some of the content. There's a few playlists in there. If you're interested in understanding some of the game mechanics, we've got some for science playlists. We've got some patch note breakdowns. I always give a monthly patch note breakdown about what's changed, all the data mining numbers, all the information you ever need to see. So there's loads of content on there for anyone who wants to understand the game better, which is really what I try to do.
Awesome. Saf, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for having me.
I've been Hell Hades. I will see you later.